and welcome to the Thank You for Knitting YouTube channel. It is really good to be back. It's been longer than usual since my last video because it was Christmas time and we went away on holiday, and I've been back for a little bit now, but I'm just trying to catch up on things and have been very much looking forward to filming this video, which is everything I knit in 2024. So this is a video I filmed myself doing this 3 or so years ago and never released it because it was bad. But it was so fun to do, and not just the video itself, but I really like taking stock at the end of the year and taking that opportunity to look back on my year, see what I've made, do a bit of an inventory. There's always a bit of a difference between what I think I've done and what I've actually done. So in the filming of this video and preparing for it was a really nice opportunity to kind of go through the number of things I made, how many of each type of project I made, and kind of reflect a little bit on things that I might do differently next year, things that I feel really pleased with, all of that. So I have really enjoyed taking an inventory, and I'm going to try to share that with you. So it might be a really long one. I might break it up into 2 parts, or I might have to at least break the filming up into 2 parts. I will start by saying that I completed 64 projects in 2024, which sounds crazy. I mean, it's well over a project per week, although I am always working on multiple projects at once, and so you know, I'll have a big burst where I finish a bunch of things all at once. And because of that, and because I'm doing that, I don't feel like I'm knitting this much until I get to the end of the year and I count everything up. And yeah, 64 projects is a lot. It's also funny because 64 projects is exactly how many I completed in 2023. And this is absolutely not intentional or by design in any way. I actually had the intention of knitting fewer things this year because I wanted to slow down and maybe knit fewer projects that were bigger but more intricate. I don't know. But what happened is similar to previous years, where leading up to the holidays, I end up doing a lot of little decor items and a lot of last minute gift knits and things like that. So there's a lot of finished objects stacked on sort of the last month or 2 of the year. So I guess the plan of how I want to tackle this, because there's so many projects to talk about, is I've grouped them sort of in categories. I thought about doing it in chronological order, but with this volume of things, there's quite a lot of little projects that I don't think need a huge explanation. And so I thought if I kind of group them in categories, that'll make it a little quicker to talk about them. Like, for example, most of my socks are more or less the same. So if I group them all together, I can kind of get through them a bit more quickly. So a couple of just really quick stats, I guess, before we go through every project individually. I grouped them into categories, and in order of the most to least number per category, if that makes sense. I finished 12 pairs of socks, 10 hats or beanies or bonnets, 9 home decor items, 6 neck accessories, so that includes cowls and shawls, I just lumped them together, and little scarves, I guess. 5 summer tops, 4 pullovers, 4 cardigans, 4 toys or animals, 3 vests, 3 pairs of mitts, 2 baby garments, 1 pair of slippers, and 1 blanket. So that is my overview, and I might talk about this a little bit more at the end, or maybe even in a separate video, but just putting this all together, a couple of things really jumped out at me and surprised me. I was surprised at how few garments I completed this year. In previous years, I've made 12, 13 pullovers maybe in a year. I only made 4 this year, which is very surprising. Although I guess if you combine the summer tops, the pullovers, the cardigans, and the vests, that's 16 adult-sized garments, so fair enough. But yeah, quite a lot of summer tops and vests, which is not sort of standard for me. So yeah, I guess let's just get right into it, because I think it could take a little while to go through all of these things. And let's start with the most to least. Let's just go in the order, because that's sort of how I've tracked them. So let's start with the socks that I completed. And let me just quickly say that every year I keep track of my projects on Ravelry. I set challenges, I track all of my projects in separate pages. And so when I'm talking about projects that were completed in 2024, they may have been started in 2023, but they were completed in 2024. But equally, there are things I started in 2024 and I haven't completed them yet, so they'll go into my 2025 stats, I guess. So that's the general situation. Okay, yeah, without further ado, I guess let's go through the projects. I don't have all of them here with me. Some of them were gifted. A couple of them I couldn't find, but I think I have probably at least 60% of them with me, and then where possible, I'll insert photos. And yeah, I won't go into a huge amount of detail, but just enough, I guess. And as always, there's more details in my Ravelry pages, and some of them I've also talked about in more detail in my previous videos. There are some items in here that I've never talked about before, and so that'll be kind of fun. If it's something I've finished recently, then I will probably talk in greater depth about it in an upcoming sort of normal podcast episode, because this is really just meant to be more of an overview. But anyways, okay. First category is socks, and I finished 12 pairs of socks this year, which I was very pleased with. I kind of went into this year having that as a general goal, because 12 pairs is 1 pair for each month. However, I wasn't very on top of that goal. I didn't cast on a new pair every month. I was quite behind when October came around, and then I finished, I think, 4 pairs in October, because we always do our Socktober knit along. And then I ended the year and sort of realized I had knit 12, and I was pleased. I really wasn't keeping good track of this goal. So I will just go in order of when I finished them, and I will be probably pretty brief. The first pair I finished was a holdover from Socktober of 2023, but I didn't finish them until January. This is the socks. That's the first one. And the second one. So these are Mrs Peacock Yarns. She is a fantastic New Zealand hand dyer who specializes in self-striping sock yarn. And this is extra special because this is a collaboration that she did with us, and this is our Loopine colorway. So she basically took a look at our business card. You can kind of see our logo with the blue, and then we have gray and white in there, and she created a colorway for us, Loopine, exclusive colorway. And so she's done this a few years in a row now, every Socktober. It's always very popular, and I don't think I knitted one the first year, but I knitted one from last year. Her original sock set had the gray as the toes and heels, but she also provides sort of separate little mini skeins, and so I picked this really nice teal kind of color for my heels, toes, and cuffs. And yeah, I love how they turned out. I did my normal standard recipe that I use for myself, but just with stockinette everywhere and a short row heel, and I love them. They're great. So that's socks number 1. Okay, pair number 2. These were pretty quick. These are the Bear Paw Socks by Andrea Mowry. I think this is the 3rd or 4th time I've knit this pattern. I like this pattern. It is a Fleagle heel, which is, I think, a really lovely heel. It fits me very nicely, and I think it's pretty easy to knit as well. I used Yarn Floozy Machinist yarn for this, which is a merino yak nylon base, and it's really lovely with the yak in it. And I basically just had 3 colors. I think by memory it was Galaxy, Acid, and I don't remember what the pale pink one is called. Okay, the pale pink one is called Rouge. I basically just marled 2 strands together, and I either did 2 of the same color, then 1 of each, onto the next, marled, solid, etc. the whole time in these kind of marled stripes. I just thought it was fun. And the modification that I did to this pair, which I've done multiple times when I've done Bear Paw Socks, is I only do the 2x2 ribbing on the top of the foot, and I just use a smooth stockinette stitch for the bottom of the foot. I just find it's nice and comfortable on the bottom of my foot to have a flat sole. So that's the pair of those. Those were fun. The next pair of socks that I knit, I'm sorry, they were packed in my bag for travel, so they're kind of folded up and not looking their best. But these are my very first pair of handspun socks that I've made that are actually in sock weight. I've done 2 other pairs, I think, of handspun socks in the past, but they came out thicker, so they were like thick socks. So these socks I was really proud of because they are, I was able to spin thin enough to make a 2-ply fingering weight and to knit these at my sort of normal sock gauge. They're looking really wonky. Let me put one on a blocker. Okay, that's a bit better. Here's one on a blocker. So I completely love these socks. I was so pleased with them when I finished them. I used Union Fibre, Bonnie's hand-dyed fiber. I spun the yarn. I've worn them quite a bit. It was a merino nylon fiber, so a sock blend. Because it's hand spun, the colors, you know, they're a little bit different for each sock, but I just love them. I think they're so beautiful. So my same normal recipe that I do with the stockinette foot, short row heel, 2x2 rib leg, and I absolutely love them. And yeah, my first time making like proper hand spun socks, so really, really pleased with these. Okay, the next pair of sock, I should be numbering these, the 4th socks, a pair of socks. I think the other one's hanging in the back, but they look the same. We got a new sock yarn in the shop called Rosario's Maya sock yarn. It's really, really nice, and we got it in because they come in 50-gram cakes and a really, really good range of solid colors. We have a lot of other colorful sock yarns, but we wanted a really good range of solid sock yarns. And so I made these really cute Summerly Knits Weekend Shorty Socks. That's the pattern name. So I actually did a heel flap and gusset, which I don't normally do, but I just felt like following the pattern because when we have a shop sample, it's so much easier if you just follow the pattern exactly, and then you can tell the customer what to do to achieve the same result. So this is them, and I just think they're super cute. We were selling, we put together a bunch of different kits for these with all the different colors. So there's 6 colors in the set, and we wound off like smaller mini balls to make these little kits, and I think they're super cute. The yarn is super soft and lovely. I haven't worn them much at all because they've been hanging here as a sample, but I think they're super cute, and yeah, Weekend Shorty Socks by Summerly. Okay, my next pair of socks, number 5, I called them my root burn socks because I was knitting them when we were hiking the root burn track, which was awesome, by the way. Sorry for them. They've also been scrunched up inside of my suitcase for traveling. These I knit using some yarn I had in my stash for a while, which is Earth Yarns. What is it called? Earth Yarns Unique Sock. So it does a really cool thing where you basically have 2 gradients that are striping with each other. So here's the sock. Sorry, they have been worn quite a bit, but I made them matching. Ugh, they look really lumpy and weird. But I use my socks. Maybe I'll insert photos if they're looking too weird, but that's them. Very cute. Super soft sock yarn, but also it is wearing really well, I would say. So I really like this yarn. I did my same recipe, stockinette heel, 2x2 rib leg, short row heel, pattern coming out eventually. Love those. My next finished socks, again, these are folded all up because I traveled with them, so sorry. But they are also self-striping sock yarn from Mrs Peacock Yarns. She has the most beautiful self-striping sock yarn. Let me put one of these on a blocker. Sorry, it's kind of a small blocker, but still that's a little bit better. So this is the Mrs Peacock Yarns self-striping, and I've got to figure out what the color is called. One moment. So this color is called Autumn in April, and I called these my Woolfest socks because I bought this yarn from Cynthia at Woolfest last year. And the mini skein that I used for the toes, heels, and cuffs was actually just a little one that I dyed years ago. I was playing around with dyeing yarn just for fun, And I kind of dyed all these multicolor, moody, autumnal looking colors. And I just ended up thinking that it went really well with the self-striping yarn. So yeah, that's that one. That's the pair. I think I made them, yeah, identical. And yeah, I think they're beautiful. Okay, my next pair of socks, my 7th pair, is Opal 8-ply socks. So now we're getting into Socktober territory. So you can see I had only done 6 pairs, and now here we are at Socktober. So I really did I did half of the socks in the final quarter of the year. I think the maths on that is right. So we had gotten in for the first time the Opal 8-ply yarn. I talk about it a lot. We have Opal yarns here, the standard 4-ply one, which are all kind of cool. They're not just self-striping, I call them self-patterning because they make such beautiful patterns and each one is different. But for the first time we were able to get the 8-ply version of the yarn. So I straight away wanted to try it out, and I think it's awesome. This is one of the socks. So again, it's like an 8-ply version of my sort of standard sock with the short row, stockinette, 2x2 ribs. I just sort of improvised the stitch counts for the thicker yarn. And there's the other one. And these were super quick. I think I knit them in just a few days because it's 8-ply. And I absolutely love this Opal 8-ply sock yarn. We'll definitely knit with it again. I love the colors that it does. I mean, you don't do any work. It does all the work for you, but they look so professional and lovely. So yeah, that was my 7th pair of socks. And my 8th pair was also another Socktober cast on. This was another new yarn we had gotten in, which was a 6-ply alpaca sock yarn. So I sort of treated it similarly to an 8-ply. I guess it's kind of in between a 4 and an 8, but gauge-wise, it kind of worked out like an 8-ply sock. So I used the Summerly Knits Hibernal DK sock pattern, which I think is really beautiful. It just has this lovely like stitch pattern, which looks like cables, but they're not cables. It's a very easy stitch pattern to memorize, the repeat, and I found it quite addictive. So I think I knit these pretty quickly as well. There's the pair. The only modification I did was, as always, I added a short row heel instead of a heel flap and gusset because I much prefer knitting it, and I also like how it fits. So those are my Hibernal DK. And quick note about the alpaca sock yarn, it is really soft, but it's strong too. It's really, really nice sock yarn. So would definitely knit with that again. We do also carry a 4-ply version of this alpaca yarn, so you get the same softness but with more of a standard sock gauge. So also really lovely. Okay, my 9th finished pair of socks was this is also a Socktober cast on, and this is my Opal Minis socks. So again, we had gotten in these little tiny mini balls of 10 grams of Opal yarn. I've talked about them before, and I just thought they were so cute, and I was thinking of ways to use them. So I used a solid color Opal yarn for the main brown yarn. And then I think I had 4 different balls of minis, but they're also self-patterning, so they kind of change as you go as well. So the pair is not exactly the same because the yarns were changing, but they're, you know, what is it? Sisters, not twins. And I think that they're really cute. I like sort of a bit of a scrappy mismatching type of look, but I think the brown still kind of holds it all together, so it's not too crazy. So I really like these socks. They were so addictive because I knew that every time I got to a new colorful stripe, I would have new surprising colors coming out of the mini opals. So I was just very addicted to doing more and more and more and see how the colors were coming out. And yeah, Opal, huge fan of Opal. Okay, my next pair of socks, my 10th finished pair, these were another Socktober cast on. And these were from a beautiful sock set that we got from another New Zealand indie dyer called Dye Studio 54. And she created a few different types of sock sets with a main yarn and a mini skein for us to sell here during Socktober. And I kept one for myself, and I made a really beautiful pair of socks that I don't have with me because I ended up gifting them to a family member when we went back for Christmas. I will insert a photo because I'm sure that I have one somewhere, so I'll insert a photo. And these ones I used, as I say, the sock set as it came, and I used the stitch pattern from the Hermione's Everyday Sock. So this is a very popular pattern on Ravelry, and I used my normal sock recipe, but I included the Hermione's Everyday Stitch pattern, which is just a really simple knit and purl texture, but I really like what it does to the look of hand-dyed yarn for socks. So yeah, you'll see in the photo, but I think they came out so beautifully. I was really tempted to keep them myself, but I don't know, I thought I have plenty of socks, and a family member who I knew would really appreciate them, so I gifted those for Christmas. And that leaves my 11th and 12th. So my 11th pair of finished socks was another one that I gifted. These were for my friend. I've shown them to you multiple times before. I will also insert a photo. This was all done in Opal yarn, no contrasting heels and toes. It was all just the self-patterning Opal yarn. They're mostly in this really nice blue color, but they have all these like stripes and patterns. And yeah, I was making these for my friend, and I didn't end up seeing her at Christmas, but I did ship them to her because she is in the US, and it was a lot cheaper for me to ship them to her when I was in the US rather than shipping them all the way from New Zealand. So I shipped them away. I'll insert a photo. She just told me the other day that she received the package and she tried them on and they fit perfectly, and she's very happy. So successful gift. And the 12th and final pair of finished socks was the other one that I was gift knitting for my friend. I've showed these also multiple times. Again, these are all my sort of standard recipe. Whoopsies. Just put that away. Standard recipe that I'm working on. Now, part of why that pattern is not coming out yet is because I'm still ironing out some of the fit issues with the different sizes. And that's why I still have this pair of socks, because I tried them on, well, I didn't try them on my friend's feet, but I tried them on Carl's feet, my husband. And he has, I think, a size 13 or 14 foot. He's very tall. These seemed like a pretty good length for his foot. And he's got bigger feet than my friend. The length actually suited him. Borderline, it wasn't too long. It basically just fit him. So I think it would have been too long for my friend. But the ankle was too tight, he said. So I don't think it was going to fit right. So I think I really have to rethink just fitting larger feet in general. The differences between trying to fit on a larger foot and some considerations around the difference between the ankle and the foot. So anyways, I didn't end up sending these to my friend because, I mean, I didn't see him, so he couldn't try them on, but I felt pretty confident that they weren't going to fit right. So back to the drawing board a little bit in terms of working on the sizing for my sock pattern, and yeah, we'll get there. In the meantime, I might end up ripping out half of these socks and re-knitting the ankle differently, or yeah, that's probably what I will do because they're very long. I don't know who they would fit if the ankles are too tight. So TBD on what's going to happen to these. I will probably rip them out or partially rip them out and rework them. I really like the yarn. I think the colors are so cool. It's the West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply. The color is called Robin. I remember that. And just really cute colors and stripes. And then Prosper Yarn Dark Horse for the contrasting bits. It's just the most perfect brown that they dye. It's like vaguely purple, but it's definitely brown, and I love that color. So that's my 12th and final pair of socks for the year, and yeah, we'll do something with those. So, okay, that's it for socks. We can do this. Okay. So my next category, which is going to be a little bit redundant, and maybe we can speed through it, is hats. So I made, as I said, a total of 10 hats this year. Let me just collect them all. Okay, hats. Some of them have been gifted, and some of them are quite redundant. I have knit 3 Georgie beanies this year. That is a pattern by my friend Alex, and I've given away 2 of them. So the first Georgie beanie that I knit was a carryover from last year. I finished it. It was my first finished object of last January, and I gave it as a Christmas present last year for my auntie, or Carl's auntie. And I don't have it with me, but I'll insert a photo. I used the Brushtail Yarns Possum Merino in the color denim. Love that yarn for beanies. It's the perfect yarn for beanies, especially when I'm gifting them to my friends in America, because Possum Merino is such a novelty, and such an amazing fiber when you live in a cold climate. So it's typically what I use for my gift knits if I'm making hats. As I said, I don't have that beanie with me, but I'll insert a photo. The next finished object, the next hat, this is a pattern that my sister wrote. So my sister has a little baby, my niece, and ever since she was born, and my sister knits as well, and ever since Zoe was born, my sister was knitting her several different types of bonnets, and she was finding a lot of fit issues with a lot of the bonnets that are available. And I think another issue she was finding is Zoe, like a lot of little kids, was wanting to take it off a lot, and so if it was loose in different places or if it wasn't quite right, she could easily pull it off. So my sister kind of came up with what she felt was the perfect bonnet pattern, and I encouraged her to write it down and publish it. So it is on Ravelry, you can find it. It is called Sunrise Bonnet by my sister Gabrielle Nemhard, and I've made a couple of them now, and this is the first one I did. So I did this for a little shop sample. You can see it has a little button and a little strap for the chin. This would be like the front view, I guess. Sorry, it's a little hard to show without a head inside of it. But I used Spin Cycle Dream State because I just thought it would look really, really sweet. I just used 1 skein or less than 1 skein for this bonnet. I think I did the smallest size on this one. No, this is the 3-year-old size. And the color I used of Dream State is the color Ranunculus, and I think it's super cute, and I put this little wooden button on it. Yeah, super quick knit and very lovely. So currently it just sits here as a shop sample, but that is the Sunrise beanie. No, Sunrise bonnet. The next one is another Sunrise bonnet that I made. That time I did make the smallest size, and I used Prosper Yarn Epic, and I did that because Prosper Yarn, Lester, my friend, who's the owner of Prosper Yarn, she had just come out with her base called Epic, which is a beautiful, unique yarn that they created with one of our mills here in New Zealand, Wild Earth, who spun it for them. And yeah, she had come out with that yarn, and she was kind of wanting to test it out, so she gave me a little skein to test, just to test the yarn and see how I liked it. I love it. Spoiler alert, it's one of my favorite yarns, the Prosper Yarn Epic. It's a woolen spun, really lofty, lovely, squishy New Zealand wool. It's half-bred wool, which is a type of breed here. Anyway, I don't have that with me either. I will insert a photo. I made that for her, and it's a sample at her shop. Okay, my next finished hat is a pattern of mine. This is called Handmer Hat. This is the first one I made. So again, I used the Brushtail Yarns Possum Merino. I made this hat as part of a little kit that I was doing with some knitting cruise people that were coming here as a group, and we were coordinating ahead of time to put together a little kit for everyone with something that was very New Zealandy, which is why I used the Possum Merino yarn, the Brushtail. I used the natural color and also 2 colors of red. It's a little bit subtle, but there's a light red, which the color is actually called red, and then there's Firefly, this sort of burgundy color, to make these trees and this little colorwork motif. And it's just super, super soft. The possum yarn is incredible. You can fold up the brim. And yeah, that was the first Handmer hat that I made. I made it as a little set with mitts as well. So that's my first Handmer hat in the reds. And I made a second version in blues so that people could have another option for their colors. This one is even more subtle, I think, the difference between the two blues, but I still think it adds a nice little interest to the color. So there's some speckles of the pale blues here, and there are two blues in the trees. I don't know if you can really tell, but that one is color azure, shadow, and again, natural light on top. And it's just so soft and lovely. We also made kits for these where we wound off like the tiny balls for the blue and the half of, I think it's half a ball for the dark blue, something like that. But we put them in these little kits. And my next finished hat was another shop sample that I kind of whipped up really quickly. We had gotten in a new yarn, which is Alpaca Yarns Cloud. It's a bulky weight, 100% merino boucle. And so I made this lovely little boucle beret. And the pattern is called Palette by the Woolfolk design team. So they designed it originally in Woolfolk Flet bulky. And I made it with the alpaca cloud. You can see the cute little thingy on the top. And yeah, this yarn is just so squishy and lovely. I've been wanting for a while to make myself a vest or a cardigan or something to wear in this boucle yarn, but I haven't had the chance yet, but hopefully this year. So that was that little beret. My next beanie I've showed you on the podcast before. It is in that beautiful brushtail yarn by Yarn Floozy, Katrine. This is her color Blackened Rainbow, and I absolutely love this color. I just think it's amazing. I mean, I think it's great on all of her yarns, but when I saw it on this brushtail, it kind of blew my mind. So I think it looks incredible, this sort of like oil slick, super dark rainbow vibe. And so I designed this hat to go with this yarn. It's kind of a waffle-y stitch, just created with knits and pearls. Really simple texture, but I think it's quite pretty. And again, this is a pattern that will come out. I haven't brought it out yet, but I have a lot of good intentions this year in 2025 to put out a lot more patterns than I normally have in the past, and particularly to get through the backlog of designs that I've sort of already designed but haven't finalized the writing and all that yet. So this is a future pattern. Sorry, it's not out yet, but this is my Blackened Rainbow beanie, one skein of the Yarn Floozy brushtail. And then, as I've showed you before, I asked Katrine, would you be able to dye like a pale version of that rainbow for me? And she did, and it's incredible. So I made another one of the same beanie because I wanted you to be able to see the texture a bit better. This one is, I love it, but it's quite dark, and I wanted a pale version. I thought having them both would be really cool. So she dyed me the most incredible like pale rainbow, and I made another one of that hat design, and I just think it's so pretty, and you can see the texture quite nicely. So I hope it's showing up on camera because it's really pretty. So there's that. And then my 9th hat that I finished was another Georgie beanie, which I made for another auntie, another one of Carl's aunties, who we saw this year at Christmas. And again, I've gifted it, but I will insert a photo. And then my 10th and final hat for the year was another Georgie beanie. I don't know if I said already, this is a pattern by my friend Alex. And this is easily one of my go-to favorite beanie patterns. I like that you start at the top of the crown because you just feel like, okay, you start at the top, you get all the increases done, and then you're just smooth sailing down the hat. And if you're not sure if you have enough yarn, you can just go until you run out. Whereas when you're starting at the bottom of a hat, you have to do a little bit more planning to make sure you don't run out before you're done decreasing. So I think that's one of the reasons I find this hat pattern so easy and kind of fun to, like a go-to hat. It's just a simple kind of broken rib looking texture. But yeah, I think it's very wearable. It's sort of basic but slightly more interesting. And then you just have a normal 2x2 rib at the bottom. It is definitely a good length for rolling up the brim. And yeah, I ended up knitting this one again because I grabbed a few balls of brushtail while traveling. This one is the color Shadow, the darker blue. And I sort of knit it as well, thinking of it as a potential gift. And then I don't know, I guess I just sort of forgot to give it to anyone. Or I guess I didn't think of anyone else who I needed to give a gift to. So anyway, it's just sitting here. I will probably keep it in a stash, and then in the future when I want to do more gift giving, I'll have this ready to go. Because, yeah, it's a great beanie. So, Georgie beanie, love it. She also has Georgia beanie, which is the thicker version of the same pattern. I've knit, I think, 3 or 4 of those. So, between the Georgie and the Georgia beanie, I've knit loads of these, and yeah, definitely one of my go-to beanie patterns. So, that is that. That is 10 beanies for the year. Before I move on too far, I should probably mention what I'm wearing. It's not that exciting to look at, but it is a hand knit item, so I should mention it because people might ask. This is indeed a t-shirt that I knit a few years ago. It is in the Erika Night Studio linen, which is one of my all-time favorite summer yarns. It's a recycled linen, so it's 100% linen, but it's much softer than most linen yarns. I've talked about it before. I really love it. This color is called Kumo, which is just black. And the pattern, let me check. The pattern is called Fleur T by Marina Balambaeva. I knit the 3rd size. I used 6 skeins of the studio linen. It's a 4mm needle for the main gauge. And yeah, I knit this back in 2022. Again, not much to look at, but very wearable shirt. I really like the construction of this pattern. It's that, I guess, saddle shoulder, I think, or contiguous shoulder, I think it is. Very flattering fit. The V-neck is nice. It's easy to wear. It's black. It matches everything. And yeah, we're in summer, so it's a little hot today, so definitely linen t-shirt kind of weather. So that is what I'm wearing. I will make sure to put the pattern information and everything in the description. My next category of items that I completed this past year were, I just sort of called them home/decor items. It was a lot of little things. So I'll go through them chronologically as well, because that seems to be the easiest way to do it. I will quickly mention that 3 of these things are crocheted. So I'm calling this everything I knit in 2024, but technically 3 of my total 64 things are crochet. So it is what it is. In chronological order, the first one was a dishcloth that I knit in a new cotton yarn that we had gotten in last year. We didn't end up loving this cotton yarn, and we have since discontinued it and gotten rid of it all. It's a perfectly fine yarn, but we felt it was quite dense and heavy and just not what we were looking for. Since then, we've gotten different cotton yarns in now, and I'm much happier with the cotton yarns that we have. But way back when I made this dishcloth, I was just trying to whip something up quickly in the new cotton to show what it looked like. I don't have it with me, I can't find it, but it's a dishcloth. I might insert a photo, but there's really nothing to say about it. Moving on. The second one was a tea kettle cozy. This was crocheted. This was very fast. This is it. And, you know, it's not a very interesting item necessarily. It was super easy. It took me, you know, an evening, maybe an hour. It's bulky yarn. It's like old stash yarn of some kind. I think it's some kind of acrylic blend from Lion Brand, maybe, from Michael's or Joann's way back in the day. It's something I've just carried around for a long time. And I used a big crochet hook, and I just whipped this up really quickly. Now, yeah, it's not that interesting on the surface. I think I just did single crochet in a circle until it was the size that I wanted. But this is a practical item. And I like that as knitters or crocheters, you know, I needed a practical item. This just goes under our, we have like a plug-in tea kettle that pretty much everyone who lives in New Zealand has. And I just wanted a nice little cozy thing to put right under the tea kettle. So I wanted it to be just slightly, you know, slightly bigger in circumference than the tea kettle, and just to be kind of thick and cozy as, you know, a little placemat for the tea kettle. And I just think it's great that when you know how to make stuff, you can just decide you want something like this and you can just make it. So yeah, it's not much, but it is a very useful item. I love the colors and how the yarn looks. I think it's beautiful, and it lives in my kitchen under our tea kettle, and it's functional and it's great. So that's that, tea kettle cozy. The next item is very similar. This is a plunger pot cozy, which I made again for Carl's aunt and uncle. And this was a Christmas gift I gave them this year, but I actually finished it a long time ago last year. It was always for them, but I don't know, I made it a long time ago and then it sat there. And then when I knew we were going to go visit them, I quickly sewed the buttons on and brought it to them. They drink coffee using a French press, otherwise known as a plunger pot, and they didn't have anything that would keep it warm. And when we visited them the previous year, they were talking about the coffee going cold quickly, so I wanted to make them a little cozy for it. And I used a pattern called Route-to-Darn, I think, and I'll put the name up, but again, I will insert a photo. Sadly, I didn't get a proper finished photo because I sort of sewed the buttons on last minute while traveling, and then I gave it to them and sort of forgot to take another photo. But I did use these really cute wooden buttons, so you won't see them in the photo. In the photo, you'll just see the cozy before it had buttons. But I used my handspun yarn, which was fun and special. And it's just these beautiful kind of red colors, and it sort of changes a bit. And this pattern is really cute. It just has cables, and I have gotten a report that they have been using it and they love it and it's working and they're very happy with it. So that was a success. My fourth home/decor item is a scrappy basket that I made. This is also crochet. So this is another item that is just functional and useful, but I think it's really cute and pretty as well. I used entirely scrap yarn for this. The pattern is called Scrap Yarn Basket, and I think it was a free pattern. And I just used a bunch of scrap yarn, and I was just kind of holding a bunch of strands together, marling it, changing color as and when I felt like it. And I mean, I'm really pleased with it. I think it's so cute. It's definitely my vibe in terms of color palette. I mean, the basic concept of making a crochet basket is you're making a circle for a while, and then at some point you just stop increasing, and then it starts going upwards in a tube shape. That's all there is to it. And then you have to do a little bit of something for these handles, but it's very straightforward. It was a quick and easy project. I think I made this when we started our crochet make-along. And yeah, I just use it in my house. I think right now I've been using it to store yarn, which, you know, makes sense. I've got a lot of yarn. But it's cute. It's a scrappy basket. I totally could see making more of these for various functions around the house. You know, there's a lot of things you could put in them. You could make them in a lot of different sizes. So that's that, scrap yarn basket, crocheted. Okay, my next, this is a decor item. Can be found on this extremely cute little doll-sized clothing rack, which is here at the shop. And this is my tiny opal dress. So as previously mentioned, we carry now these little 10-gram opal minis, which have different types of stripes or gradients or patterns throughout them because they are minis based off of the full-sized opal yarns, which are color changing. And I just wanted to see exactly sort of how much you could get out of one little ball. So I just made this little kind of gradient dress. I used one little ball of the opal, 10 grams. I didn't quite use the whole thing, but I think I used most of it. Started at the top and I just kind of made it up. I did some sort of raglan increases, some yarn over eyelets at the top, short sleeves, and yeah, it's just a little dress, just to kind of add more items to our little clothing rack for our display that we have in the front window. And I think I used a 2mm needle, and that was it. Quick and easy and very cute. Similarly, I made this very tiny, very cute little sock. This is also for our display in the front. We have sort of set up a mini shop in our front window with these little mini shelves, and we made little tiny micro skeins and little tiny garments, and I don't know, we just thought it was really cute. So I made this teeny little sock on this teeny little sock blocker. This is a yarn that I dyed a long time ago. It's like a micro stripe self-striping, so it ended up actually being perfect for stripes on a tiny sock. And yeah, very cute. Didn't have a pattern, I just made it up based on the general knowledge that I have about sock shaping. And so I just started at the toe, went up the foot, did kind of a tiny little short row heel, ribs up the leg, and that's it. Tiny sock. The next decor item, I don't actually know where it is because it's been put away somewhere in the back, but it is the Santa's Laundry line, which was one of the most adorable and fun things that I have ever made. I talked about it before. I will insert a photo, maybe 2 photos on the screen because it is so cute. This is a pattern by Eleanor von Kastelmuir, and it is a free pattern, which is lovely. She has, I think, 8 items in the original pattern. I only made 5 because I didn't have a ton of time. I just made this sort of before Christmas to be hung up in our front window. And I used sort of miscellaneous 4-ply weight yarns in colors that I liked. And yeah, I'll insert a photo. It's so cute. I mean, you could take this concept and probably apply it to different themes, which is kind of a cool idea. Maybe we'll think about that for our window display moving forward. But yeah, I made this in December. It was very quick. The items are a little bit small, so I mean a little fiddly, but each item is pretty fast because it's small. I made Santa's pants into shorts because we're in New Zealand, so when Santa comes to New Zealand, he has to wear shorts because it's the middle of summer. Otherwise, I more or less followed the pattern, and yeah, it's so cute. Hopefully you'll see in the photo. Okay, the 8th decor / home item that I made was a gift, so I also don't have it with me, but it is a hot water bottle cover. I made this for my brother and I gave it to him at Christmas. I think I made it in 1 or 2 days. It was very fast, and I ended up just making up the pattern. I found a bunch of hot water bottle patterns I liked, but in the end I had some stash yarns that were bulky weight, and I wanted to use them because I thought the colors were really nice together. And so I wrote my own color work chart, and then I made up the shaping of the pattern based on just sort of trying it on the water bottle as I went. I may at some point write up a pattern for it, if that's something people are interested in. There's a lot of hot water bottle patterns out there, but I don't know, if people are interested, I could write it up and put it out there. I think it came out really cute. Love the yarn combination, like the colors, and it fits the water bottle perfectly. So yeah, I think my brother really liked it, hopefully. And the 9th and final home related item that I made, I talked about this in my quick gift knit ideas video, and I ended up making it for some family that we have who live on a farm. So they have a working farm in Northern California. It's really beautiful there, and they grow, it's an organic farm. They grow a ton of vegetables and fruits, and they have pomegranates and olives and sheep and chickens, and yeah, I just thought they might get a kick out of these chicken coasters. So the pattern is called Chicken Coasters. This is my 3rd crochet item. These were very fast to make, and they were so fun. I would totally make them again. They're really cute. I held multiple strands of scrap yarns together for each one. So I think I held different colors of 4-ply yarns together. So each one is a little speckly and different color scheme, which I thought was very cute. And yeah, I'll insert a photo as well because obviously I gifted them, but these are so cute. I totally recommend them. And I think they were quite a hit at the gift giving event. There was a lot of gifts flying around all at once in different directions, and these were well appreciated, I think. So they're just really cute. You'll see in the photo. So chicken coasters, would recommend, totally. Would knit again. I just checked, and I've been recording for a really long time, so I definitely might have to split this into 2 videos. Minimally, I'm probably gonna have to split it into 2 recording sessions,